I see him. Awesome. How's it going, everybody?
Round of applause for Marky.
Marky Mark or Marky or whatever you want to call me. I'm fine with anything. This is going to be talking about NFTs. I released a new product today. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I want to talk more about the technology behind it. I think that's going to be a little bit more valuable to you, so I don't want to waste your time. So it's Marky. Everyone knows me, I think, one way or another. Probably love or hate me. This is the icon for my gaming company I've been doing. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about NFTs real quickly, then real quickly on what I'm released, and then mostly is going to be number 3, talking about the technology and obstacles, and if there's time, some questions. So the first thing is just a quick thing about NFTs. Just letting you guys know that somebody paid over $400 for a 52-minute recording of farts. There was a group of people that were bored from COVID, and they started recording their farts, and they started putting them as NFTs and sold a few. And one of them went for $400, a kind of a grouping of a bunch of them. So a couple of facts about NFTs recently. An $850,000 CryptoPunk was sold for $20,000 in error. If you're familiar with CryptoPunks, the cheapest CryptoPunk is around $350,000. There was 7 or 9 alien CryptoPunks that sold for about $17.5 million. The biggest NFT is about $70 million. It's a very large JPEG with a bunch of images in it. But the most expensive one was a CryptoPunk for $530 million. But it was just one guy selling it to himself, kind of washing some money, most likely. So I'm going to do a quick reveal about what I released today. A lot of people probably already know it, but I released CryptoPunks on Hive. I call them Punks on Hive, or Hive Punks, as you may know them. And each one is generated on the fly, which is very unique in the industry. Most have minted or generated them all ahead of time, and then they hand them out in the minting process. There's a market, so you can sell them, buy them. It's all done on Hive Engine. And you can mint them right now. It's live. It is pretty backed up. About 25% have sold out already. There's 10,000 total. And that's really all I'm going to do is talk about it. I don't want to come here and sell. I want to talk about the technology. That's what I love. That's what is my passion, is technology and gadgets and shit like that. So let's talk about that. So the first thing, I want to talk about the technology and how this was built in the design goals. The first thing was every punk is generated on the fly. When you spend money and buy a punk, it creates a process that actually creates a randomization function that builds your punk on the fly and generates it, mints the NFT with an IPFS link. It's a folder that includes the image. It includes all the attributes as a JSON file, and then it includes a JSON with all the transaction data for various reasons I'll talk about. This is very similar to how NFTs are done on Ethereum. There's a standard metadata system, so it's a little bit different. All the rarity scores are updated every single time a new punk is done. It calculates all the 280 attributes in each and one individually and what the rarity for each one of these are. It calculates the rarity of the body of each one, what type of punk they are. It calculates the rarity of all the professions. Each of these punks have names. They have professions. These are all randomized. The professions have been nerfed. So since it's not a visual aspect, it doesn't show a full rarity score on it. It's like 25% of the score. That way you don't get something with a rare profession and it gets like super high rarity, but it doesn't really show it on the picture. So that was a big part of this project. Was I wanted to do what I call rare time rarity, where when you mint a punk, every single punk in the out there gets recalculated. Every single attribute, every single profession. When you're looking at your gallery, this is all done in real time. You actually see it update. You could be looking at the details page. They'll all start moving in real time as people are minting. The last thing I'm talking about is really everything's real time. You go to the gallery page and you can see your punks come in. Now, unfortunately, right now, it's really, really backed up. A lot have been minted. A lot of them are trying to be minted, and it's a slow process. So it's falling a little bit behind because not the rarity, which is surprisingly not the problem. The problem is IPFS data and the uploading to the bucket slowing down. And I'm going to talk about that too. It's how I avoided that. It only happens to IPFS once. Once it's done that, it's done with IPFS. So I want to talk a little bit about the technology behind Punks on Hive. There's a few pieces of the puzzle. Hive Engine hosts all the NFTs, and they're minted on Hive Engine. Postgres database stores all the metadata, links to pretty much all the rarity, the images, everything. The IPFS hash, CID is on there, and that's what runs the website. So it's not pulling from the chain for everything. Python is used for the entire backend. It's all done in Python except for the Discord bot, which is JavaScript. The front end is completely JavaScript. The front end is Vue.js, which I've been using a lot lately, which I really love. And then IPFS is used for decentralization storage. So where did I spend most of my time? I would say 25% of my time was in the algorithm and tweaking the generator and manipulating it so it would create the curve that I'm looking for. I would say that might even be a little bit higher over the last few days since I've made the slide deck. The back-end systems, that's a big part of it as well. It kind of goes hand in hand with that, but those two parts of the system probably account for half of it. The website was half of it, and that's mainly because I suck at web development. It's not my thing. I don't like doing web development. I avoided it my entire life. So I hate doing it, and it's the hardest part for me. One of the things that's really cool about this project, and one of the things I really wanted to focus on, is every single punk is verifiable. You can verify what you got. I haven't seen any other NFT generative project do this. In the real-time rarity, the real-time database, the real-time updates, the verification, these are all the unique things that Hivepunks has that no one else I've seen do. Most of them generate 10,000 generated NFT images up front, and then they distribute them when people mint. So you're getting a random number of which one you get. All the rarities are known ahead of time. This isn't the case. The code is on GitHub. You can go there and look at it, and you can actually run it. And the way it works is it takes a transaction ID. It takes the block number that transaction ID was in. My code that's in here will actually look up the block for that particular transaction. Then you'll find a previous block, puts them together, and then basically adds a offset. So if you mint 10 punks, they'll add a -0, -1, -2 at the end to basically offset that string that's the same for the transaction. And then the offset kind of gives it for each individual one. That's all available, and this will tell you what attributes you would get with that transaction ID. It has to be a real transaction ID because it looks up the block and all that stuff, and they'll show you. So if you mint 10, you put in the transaction ID, you put in how many you minted with that transaction, and it'll list all the attributes that you would get for each of the punks. One of the things I want to do is some fun things, little touches. For example, you can set a punk as an avatar. I thought that would be cool, seeing people start changing their avatar to be a punk that they really like or grown accustomed to. And as you can see, there's a name in a profession, and these get kind of funny. Like, for example, there was a barber that had crazy hair, and I kind of joked that it's like a mechanic who doesn't fix their car. They're the last ones to be serviced, and it's the same thing. There's a lot of funny, ironic combinations that pop up. I actually had in the first generation of punks, this is like the 6th test net I've ran. prior to launching. The first generation, there was one punk called Genesis Holder, which is kind of funny for the crypto industry because that's kind of some terms that are related to it. And a little bit about the rare time rarity. Like I said, every single thing here is calculated on the fly. If you open the screen and look at one of the punks, you'll actually see these things update in real time. And that's because what's happening is there's the database, which is a materialized view. And that's how I am able to get the performance. I have a bunch of subviews that represent each of the attribute slots, and then a materialized view that gets rematerialized every time a new punk's done. So I've got the recalculation with 10,000 punks in existence down to about 400 to 600 milliseconds. So under a second. And then once it materializes, it's like a table sort. You just query the table. It's a flat table at that point. A materialized view is basically a view that has been turned into a table. So the performance of searching 10,000 records is really quick in any database. One of the things that became a problem is I needed custom tooling. I couldn't see things. There wasn't good tools for the Hive engine testnet to be able to see like what NFTs are minted, what the hashes are, who owns them, what the balances of accounts are. There's no account history for testnet. There's no testnet right now, to be honest. That's another part of the problem. So I made a custom tool that you basically can put together queries. So if you type in TXID, it'll get, look up a transaction ID. If you type in NFT property and then symbol would be the NFT, it'll actually look up that NFT property and find it, and you'd put value. So you'd put the symbol, NFT property, value in the chain, and with that combination, it'll do a query to find that for you. It made it a lot easier that I can just quickly query what I'm looking for by just putting the right combination for what that function I was looking for. And I can look up a balance for a particular account, find out if a particular NFT hash, which is an IPFS CID, exists and what NFT is signed to. Or if I just want to look up an NFT, I could put in the symbol NFT SR to look up a showroom tech NFT and look up 15, and it'll show me the 15th NFT SR token or my token, which in beta I use trunk, and then I added a T in front of it to be TT trunk. The final one is punk. I also add a flag on there to set test net or real net or main net, and it'll switch to that. And that was a big part of the generation process. What I want to do is I spent a lot of time generating, and I wanted to be able to look at the distribution and see if what I set would work. So one of the things I created is this punk generator. It takes a bunch of functions. If I want to mint a token during the beta, I would just say // generate / mint / to, and then who I wanted to send it to, and it would do the right functions to do that. If I wanted to just run 10,000 of them in memory and then see what things were, I can just type in /dry, gender, and face, and it would give me a grouping of what happened during that 10,000 based on the numbers I gave. And in this situation, you can see that I did a little Easter egg where females can get beards in facial hair. That's a very, very small percentage. It's only like 10 out of 10,000. And it's not calculated in the rarity because it doesn't cross match between like gender and facial hair. It basically gender, facial hair are two rarities, and it calculates those, but it doesn't do them in combined. So it's more of an Easter egg and not something that affects the rarity score. But a female with mutton chops, for example, would be pretty popular, even though the rarity may not look high. So what went wrong? Here's some of the things I ran into while I was doing it. The biggest problem was the test net was taken down. There was a third-party person, somebody that just ran a test net out of goodwill, and it went down because they changed it to mainnet, and I had no test net, so my entire process stopped. And there's no documentation of setting up a test net, so I had to figure out how to make a test net, how to even do it. And that took a day of my time, and I was already running on the clock with only a few days before HiveFest. So that was a big hurdle for mine, but I learned a lot in the process, but that was a big problem. The second problem was synchronization. The way I did this is I have a database that handles the real-time updates, the metadata, and all that type of stuff, and what handles the website. The NFTs are done on the blockchain, and synchronizing those two was very, very important to me. I wanted to make sure when I minted an NFT, I don't get an ID back saying, hey, this is the ID that you get. You basically, you mint it, and then it's the next one in line. But if something happened in the database process that some reason one of the things didn't go in the database and I just used a primary key to pull the next one in line, they may not be in sync. So what I did was I basically mint the NFTs, and then I have another process that watches the blockchain to see when a new NFT shows up, and then it inserts a database, because then it knows the IPFS hash and it knows the ID for sure. So it's 100% accurate. The next thing was a duplication problem. I basically had a database function that checks if a hash exists, and then I used my tooling to see if the hash exists as a property, and it checks both of those so it won't do a duplicate. So that does that every time it mints, it verifies that there's nothing that exists. Performance was big because I did a lot of things to make things real fast, materialize views, the stacking of views, and some other tricks to make things happen fast. So the minting's really quick. And then time, I ran out of time. There's just never enough time. There's a lot of features I wanted to add, but I just couldn't do. And then I just have questions. If there's time for questions, if not, there's not. But so that's it. That's what I had to talk about.
Ooh, thanks, Mark. Thanks a lot, man. It's really great. But come again, tell me, where can I get one of the NFTs?
You can go to punks.usehive.com, and you can find the NFTs there. All
right. And that's great. There was like a special offer for HiveFest. Did I remember that correct?
Yes, it's five Hive off, so it's 20 Hive instead of the normal price of 25. And so far, over 25% have already gone. So it may end up being just that price forever, because that maybe
we should. Can I get out? Can somebody else take the stage? Because I got the real FOMOs here right now. I need to get some of those Hivepunks. I need to get them now. Thanks a lot, Marky, and good luck. And thanks a lot for showing all the insights in the development and tooling process. Have a great weekend, and stick around. Some people definitely have some questions for you, but unfortunately not on the stage. Thanks a lot, Mark.
All right, man.
Thank you.
All right.